Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I am here with...
I'm Andrew Searles, and I'm the product manager on Roll20, specifically over the VTT.
And I'm Morgan Buck. I'm the CTO at Roll20 and currently head of product. So I'm here to answer your questions about the tech and kind of bigger picture product philosophy stuff.
So yes, today we're going to talk about Roll20, their new virtual tabletop redesign. I'm excited about this. My friends and I have been using Roll20 very heavily, especially during the pandemic. And a lot of us, well, a lot of them, I'm not too much of a tech geek, but a lot of my friends are. And always the question that comes up when we do Roll20, it's like, okay, sooner or later, they're going to update. They're going to do something big, you know? Just by the way how the world works and technology changes and everything, and we saw that something's going to happen soon, and it is. So how would you describe the virtual tabletop redesign exactly?
Yeah, well, I usually describe it like this. We have been around for a long time. Roll20 has been here for, what was it, Morgan, 10-ish years?
I think we're 11 years now. Yeah.
11 years now. And I think it is time for that. But the main thing, the reason we're doing this is not because we think it needs to look newer. Although that is part of it. The main reason we're trying to do this is because we want to refocus in on being the easiest VTT that you can be, and not because we want to, from a competitive standpoint. We actually really enjoy a lot of other VTTs for a lot of different playing styles and things like that. What we really want to do is focus on making your game better for you. One of my friends put it this way, and I've loved the way they put it this way. When I think back to that quintessential moment in role playing, what does it look like? Does it look like the story that I tell with my friends, or does it look like that UI hazard that I had, right? And we want to make sure that Roll20 is always allowing you to tell better stories, to create better memories with your friends, so that way you enjoy and love role-playing games as they're meant to be. The platform should fade into the background. And that's what we're going to try to continually focus on. And in this redesign, that's the primary thing that we're going to, everything that we do, we're going to try to make sure, is this easy enough that you can just make it work and tell your story better?
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for.
And over the years, we've just kind of continued to add feature on top of feature on top of feature. And we think that's really valuable. We want to keep doing that. But at the same time, a new user getting into the platform for the first time is kind of suddenly immediately encountered with all of this depth and complexity that they don't really know how to engage with. There's a lot of learning curve going on there. So a big part of this too is really to make the primary function, the primary actions people want to take, either as a player or a GM, extremely intuitive, easy to figure out. That if you know what you want to do, you can look at the UI and know how to do it. And then kind of take those pieces that are more advanced, that provide for more immersion in those things, and make those things that you can go and seek out in a similarly intuitive way, but in a way that doesn't clutter the experience for someone who's just trying to get started.
Okay, I see that there's some changes to the toolbar, some adjustments to the layers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big thing that we want people to know is Roll20 is redesigning the VTT. All right, that's a big thing. It's a huge project, and we don't expect it to take we don't expect it to take like a month. It's going to take a long time to do all of the things, especially when we're trying to keep the depth of features that we have, just make it easier. And that's not a simple process, right? For anybody that knows how to get to simplicity, it is always very complex to get to something very simple. And so when we started thinking about, like, okay, we want to redesign, we want to focus on ease of use, how can we do this the best way? And we started to realize that we will never do that if we shut ourselves off and we just go and try to make it happen. We need the feedback of our users. We've got to have their opinions. They have to help us. And this is a yes and conversation with our users. And so what we wanted to do is find the smallest amount of effort that we could do first to get a good, strong statement, just like in role playing, a strong statement first, and then have them respond back to us. So that came to, let's redesign the toolbar. Let's make the toolbar, because it's fairly straightforward. There's lots of tools in there and people use that. That's how they jump off a lot. So we can redesign that area, but let's do it minimally and let's get it out to people so that they can give us feedback. Let's put it behind an opt-in so we don't ruin people's games. That we definitely don't want to do that, right? That's the last thing we want to do. So let's put it behind an opt-in. Let's let people opt in if they want to, give us thoughts and opinions about what it is. And we can respond to that with like, okay, we hear that that's not quite right. Let's make a change here. Let's make a change here. And then eventually we'll get the toolbar to where we think that works. And then we'll move on to other parts. And those other parts will be informed by, hey, this toolbar is great, but what about? And then we'll, oh, okay, we see that a lot of people are asking about this. So maybe we go in that direction. And in this way, it becomes a really collaborative effort with our users. And we hope that it will result in a much more user-friendly product in the end.
And in layers, there was a situation once about 2 years ago where a friend of mine was trying to hide his dungeon and it had some trouble adjusting that. So there'll be some new options or a new way to access them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually one of the most exciting things that we're initially pushing with. And that is right now, when you hover over that little layer icon in the tiny little toolbar, you have to then, you see the options and you click on it and then you're on it. But time and time again, in my games and when I'm watching other people play, they're always like, oh, I forgot that I was on this layer. It happens so many times, too many times. And while we're on this, we want to make sure that we're considering everything that people are having trouble with and fix them as we go. So that's one of the big reasons that we started with the toolbar is let's break out the layers. Let's make it easy to switch between them. And let's make it easy for you to identify which one you're on. And that way it's straightforward, hopefully.
To dig into a little bit more, our design team really initially kicked off this process. It originally came from a design proposal, and our design team kicked off the original rounds of user research that got us to it. And I can't recall exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure that their initial idea wasn't to start with a toolbar. They just started doing a lot of research about different types of user pathways, things that users tried out and didn't succeed in doing on their first try. And a lot of their other user tests were kind of getting slowed down and stopped because people kept getting confused about which layer they were on, even when they were testing other things. That the design team was sort of like, no, we have to figure about how to solve this this layer issue and the readability and understandability of the layer system before we can really dig into any of the other problems, because it's so fundamental to the experience, at least for GMs.
Is there a need? Sometimes when things upgrade, things change. Sometimes technology has to change with it. So like sometimes like a newer game, you might need like a better PC, better graphics card. Is there anything that if for me, let's say if I want to jump into this right away, is there anything I should be aware of hardware wise?
Yeah, not initially. This toolbar is done in a way that does not affect the heaviest hitting parts of our UI. So when you opt in, you should not see any difference in your performance today. Now, I think, and I'll leave this one maybe for Morgan, but there are some new technology updates that we are looking for looking to use in the future. And we have even started implementing them that we hope over time will really help the performance in general. Yeah,
our goal is to adopt technologies that are going to make the tool more accessible to more people rather than the other way around. I think, there are kind of some bleeding edge technologies that we could push out that could really make this, a high performance type of situation where you really have to have an elite computer to be able to utilize the system. That's not the direction we want to go. I think instead we're looking towards technologies that have, really strong development teams behind them that are constantly achieving a high level of support for all kinds of different systems and that can degrade gracefully. So, when we're looking at how we want to be rendering things in the virtual tabletop, we're looking at technologies that try to be expansive in terms of who they they support. And I guess this gets into a little bit of why, I think you said your friends were wondering when a big update was coming from Roll20. And, the reason why it's taken us a little bit here is because a lot of that stuff, those technology decisions and those technology initial implementations have been happening under the hood. We have a philosophy about trying not to have the team kind of go dark or sort of disappear and build something completely from scratch. We try really hard to take new technologies, find a place to inject them into the system, and then let them kind of gradually take over the old technology in a way that's kind of user driven, rather than being like, well, we're just going to wait 9 months, no new user features, and then when we're done, we'll have a slightly nicer looking version of the thing that you already had before. But instead, we want to say, here's this piece of functionality we're going to give you, and that's in the new tech now, the new tech. And then we're going to give you this other thing, and that's in the new tech. And by the time we're done with it, we're moved over to that new technology. We've been gradually mixing in this new user interface framework kind of all over the website for a couple of years now, as well as this new graphics rendering framework that we're beginning to shift to. So that's our approach. And it took us definitely a while to, first to get our infrastructure in a good place during the peak of the pandemic, and then to start injecting these more modern systems and getting them ready to start taking things over and becoming these new features that can hit a higher quality bar than we were capable of with our old tech.
A friend of mine who was a longtime Roll20 user wanted to know if, let's say, he's made his own modules, he's bought modules for the game. Does the new updated redesign affect any of the older stuff in any way?
Not currently, because it's just the toolbar. It's really just how you interact with the map. We're actually even able to do the opt-in on a per person basis. So you could actually have half of your group opted into the toolbar and the other half not opted into the toolbar, and your experiences will be similar interacting with each other. So this toolbar update is really kind of isolated from a lot of the other systems, which also makes it really good sort of starting place for us.
Yeah, the toolbar will really just be different ways of interacting with the content you already have. In terms of other features that we're working on, I think doors and windows are a good example here. We will sometimes try to find opportunities to find extremely popular pieces of older content to go back and add that functionality to, but we're not going to release things that invalidate old content. If you've bought something before, we're going to make sure that that continues to work. And we do test old modules when we go through and make changes to make sure that things are up and running. Some of them are kind of our gold standards for, stress tests too. Dungeon of the Mad Mage is a great place to make sure that you haven't broken, performance and dynamic lighting.
Yeah, those dungeons are really big.
One bookshelf. Is there anything that may change from anyone buying anything from Drive-Thru RPG or DM's Guild? Does that affect any products in any way?
Well, so there are kind of a couple of different pieces there. So one of the first things that we worked on together with the folks that came over to us from One Bookshelf is the integration with the DM's Guild. And I think we're definitely looking at more opportunities like that, more places where you can kind of buy something in one place and have it across, both your digital bookshelf as well as, the modules and the interactive components on the Roll20 side. There's a strong desire from people to be able to, limit the number of times they have to make a purchase, but still be able to use that content wherever they've got it. We're going to try to do that as much as possible. We do have plans to try to get the integration of the PDFs from the One Bookshelf side into your library on Roll20 easier and more streamlined for users. But to be really, transparent about that, there's some things that we have to work out on the back end about, how logins work and, what it means to be a member of both sites before we can get that. And that's a really tough technical problem. So, that's something that's going to be, it's coming down the roadmap, but there are challenges in front of it that we weren't originally anticipating.
Besides the toolbar and then the layers, are there any new or any other features that I haven't mentioned about?
Oh, yeah, actually, there are a few things that come along with it that I think will be general quality of life improvements. One of the things that I'm really excited about is we have added a way to impersonate or preview as a player. There is currently, you can do this by a short key command on your keyboard, but that's the only way that you can do it. With the new toolbar, we now have an actual button that does it. So you don't have to remember what that short key is. And actually this kind of gets into another thing that we're really trying to do. And as we do these redesigns, we're creating new principles for ourselves that will help our decision-making process going forward really focus on how we can make it easier for users. And this one specifically is there should be no undiscoverable keyboard shortcuts that don't have a button somewhere else on the UI for you to discover it. And that's something that we're going to really start trying to, as we go forward, we're going to really start trying to make sure that we don't hide especially essential functionality that really solves problems behind just a keyboard shortcut. We want to make sure that there's a way that you can, we call that discover it on the actual UI. So there's some sort of button or something like that. And then we want to make sure that we can teach you what the shortcut is so that you can do it faster, right? So discover it through a button on the UI and then learn what the shortcut is so you can do it faster. And that one's really cool. I'm excited about that one. There's a couple other changes in there too that you'll get into. The other thing that I would mention is we plan on also releasing an update to the measure tool. And it's coming almost right after this toolbar. And there are some interesting and interesting improvements in it. So when you first get the toolbar, it will have the previous measure tools in it, and you can opt in and use the measure tool just like you have been today. But hopefully quickly after that, we will be able to release a new measuring tools that allow you to measure in different ways, not just a straight line, but maybe in a cone or a circle or a square, something like that. And this, you'll be able to use this to sort of measure the range of spells, like in D&D, or measure the effect of a meteor hitting the map, or and any other kind of major area you'll be able to measure in different shapes. And that, I think, will open up open up a lot of usability for people. I hope, and I know it will for me. So I'm really excited about it. So
outside of the VTT space, I think we've got a bunch of other exciting things that are coming up this year. Not quite ready to announce those, but definitely going to be talking more about it this year. But some kind of interesting advancements with character sheets and how we put those together, and the quality bar that we're able to hit with those, and definitely a few other things that we're keeping up our sleeve until we're ready to talk about them.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. So when would these changes be implemented?
yeah, so the good news is, and the reason why we feel confident about talking about it and committing to things, is because we already use it. I already use this new toolbar on my games. And so it is working. Now there's a few things that are like, I know that this is a bug, or so we're still sort of refining it. We use it internally for our internal teams. So we're all trying to make sure that it is ready for prime time. So it is pretty much ready to go. We hope to release it around the end of May, early June. So that's where you can start expecting to start getting into it and start opting in. It will be an opt-in by default. So you don't have to, and we won't force it on you. You can opt in, and then there'll be a place where you can give us feedback and say, like, this is great, but this can change, or I didn't love this thing and I'm going to opt out, and here's why. I would love to hear that. Tell us why you are opting out. That would be great. Yeah.
Well, excellent. I'm excited to see this happen. Is there any last words before we wrap up? Is there any last words, anything you want to say about this?
Yeah. I think the main thing that I would say is I would continue it off of the last thing I just said, is we really do want to hear your thoughts and opinions, even if they're strongly held and potentially painful, right? Like, I don't want you to hold back. And the reason that I say that is because I often find that that passion can come out in a lot of emotion. And I want to hear the pain and the problems that you have, so that way we can fix it. I really appreciate that, even if sometimes it is could be hurtful. I still want to hear those things. We have a place that you can give feedback on it, that you will be able to, and it's not currently, it doesn't have the feedback link on it just yet, but you will be able to go to a landing page. We can provide it to you for show notes or whatnot, for a link, and that will give you all of the things that are changing. There's a changelog in there. There'll also be a sort of a future roadmap or a future features area, and there'll be a place where you can provide feedback on that main place. So we want to hear from you. We really do. So,
yeah, philosophically, the reason why we're out here doing podcasts too kind of ties into the same thing. I think we're really, really looking from a high level perspective all across Roll20 to try to have more, less of a monologue and more of a dialogue with users, and have the opportunity to talk to people, get their feedback, get their impressions, see what people are asking. We have our own forums where we try to have these conversations on a regular basis with users. But the thing that I really would like to know is where do users want to see us? Where do they want to be having conversations with us? Because, wherever that is, I would like to go to there.
yeah.
Well, thank you both very much for the opportunity to talk about Roll20. I'm very excited about the changes, and I can't wait to see them implemented and played through many times. So our viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to hear our conversation. Be safe out there. We'll see you next time.